Ugh, haven't made a video in a couple of weeks. Don't know what to do next. I hope there is a movie that can blow me away or something that is so dark and well planned out. Holy shit, it's Mike Wazowski!
No, dude, it's just me.
Oh, you're to ask for more lotion?
What? No! I'm here to give you this. Yeah, I'm just gonna take this. Thank you very much.
Hello everyone and welcome back to my home. Yes, I found a new catchphrase, whoop-de-fucking-do. Today I will be talking about Batman Returns, or otherwise known as the greatest Batman movie of all time. As you can see, I love this movie with a deep, burning passion. The reason why I love this movie so much is because it isn't afraid to take risks and show off creativity. Let's start from the beginning, shall we? After finishing up with Batman '89, Tim Burton had no plans on returning to the world of Gotham because, solo projects, I guess? I don't know. WB tried getting him back, but it seemed like Tim was just not really feeling it anymore. Until WB decided to do the best option. Let him have creative control. Batman Returns is a dark superhero fantasy thriller starring Michael Keaton, Danny DeVito, Michelle Pfeiffer, and of course, my great-grandfather. Let's just call him Christopher Walken. The plot of this film is that Batman is back, but this time there is more chaos in Gotham caused by the Red Triangle, led by a deformed Oswald Cobblepot, otherwise known as the Penguin, who would go on to run for mayor after being convinced by businessman Max Schreck, who goes on to kill Secretary Selina Kyle, who survives her fall and becomes Catwoman. Now, this was a difficult film to analyse, but there are people out there who did a much better job than I ever could, so if you're looking for more information about this movie, I would highly recommend checking out these videos. They are well researched and well explained, so go ahead and check them out after this video. Let's start things off by going over the themes that this movie deals with. The themes are loneliness and duality. Duality is shown throughout the movie. The characters are all wearing masks, hiding who they truly are in the inside, but we'll get to that when we talk about the characters. Loneliness is shown in the characters themselves and how they are just freaks unable to cope with the norm of society. Which some of us can relate to. I mean, not everyone's a freak, to be honest. I mean, hell, I wouldn't really consider myself a freak, you know what I mean, my dudes? They're all trying to fit into the world, but the problem is that it just doesn't work. I mean, we've seen this with the Penguin, it just doesn't go according to plan. I'm sorry, but when Bruce tries to look for Selina Kyle in the alleyway, I just can't help but kind of tear up a little bit. I'm sorry, that's the kind of person I am. The choice of lighting in this film is still great. Every scene except for Wayne Manor gives off a cold atmosphere. Hell, even the camera shots are perfect in this film. If there's something about Tim Burton, he knows how to make perfect shots in his movies. My favourite shot is when we are introduced to Bruce. He is in darkness with the camera aimed at a high angle shot. This shows that Bruce Wayne is weak and vulnerable. But when the lights come on and Bruce stands up with the bat signal in the background, not only does this show that it's time for Batman to go out and beat the crap out of people like he always does, but the camera goes to a low angle shot showing that he is strong and determined. Now let's talk about the best parts in the movie, such as... Just like my review of Batman '89, the set design of Gotham is so gritty, but this time there's more to see, which means more German expressionism, baby! I really love the set of the park, it really gives off a cold feeling. I should have mentioned the Batmobile in my last video, but now I can talk about it here. And I think it's a really great design, but I don't know if I would call it my favorite design because I really love the design of the Batmobile from Batman the Animated Series. I don't know, it just looks so cool. Now let's get to the characters. Bruce Wayne is pretty much the same as he was in the last film. Bruce is the mask, Batman's the true identity. But this time we get to explore that a little more, especially in the scenes with him and Selina Kyle. A lot of people say that Batman doesn't really have a motivation in this film, but personally, I think he does. Bruce is trying to find humanity because it is established at the start that he only lives for the Batman. He is more aggressive and shows no remorse for killing goons, and yes, Batman does kill in this movie and I still don't give a shit. Fun theory, the guy who Batman lit on fire is still alive in a way. If he dropped down and rolled into the snow, he would still be fine. Except for suffering second-degree burns. Now, it may look like I'm bashing the people who are very overprotective over Batman's no-kill rule, but I'm not, and if you are, all the power to you. If it isn't obvious, if someone were to ask me who my favourite Batman would be, it's obviously going to be Michael Keaton. Don't get me wrong, a lot of the people who put on the cape and the cowl did a freaking wonderful job with the character. I'm so sorry, George. I'm so sorry, man. Selina Kyle in this movie is an opposite to Bruce. What I mean by this is that she is the part of Batman that is more reckless and chaotic. We see at the start she is in the background of Schreck's meeting showing the outcast in Selina Kyle, and then she transforms into Catwoman. Later on we see her taking out a man in the alleyway who is about to assault a random woman. After taking out the man, she looks at the woman she rescued, telling her how defenseless she is, which can give off the feeling that she is speaking to herself from the start of the film. Kinda like taunting her old self in a way. Originally, Annette Bening was the original choice to play Catwoman, but she had to back out because she felt pregnant at the time. I remember watching a video on Sean Young appearing on the Joan Rivers show dressing up in a Catwoman costume, demanding Burton to cast her as Catwoman. Which is kind of a bit of a weird thing to do, but if I were in that situation, I really wouldn't do that. Like, no disrespect to Sean, I would not do that. I'm sorry. Catwoman's motivation in this film is to get payback from Max Schreck, who pushed her off a 4-story building while she was snooping around his office. Other than the fight scenes, I really love the ball scene where Selina pulls out a pistol and Bruce is trying to hide it from the public.
Doesn't that make Batman a hypocrite?
Surprisingly, no. Because keep in mind, at this point, Bruce has opened up to Selina and his humanity is slowly starting to resurface. My favourite part of that ball scene is when Bruce asks Selina, "Who do you think you are?" Her response to this is, "I don't know anymore." This right here symbolises that Selina's humanity is slowly starting to fade away, and that Catwoman is fully starting to take over her. This is also the representation of what Bruce Wayne will become if he, as Batman, continues to kill and if he does not regain his humanity. Catwoman's outfit is one of my favourite Catwoman costumes, and looking at her new costume in the Batman '89 comics, not my cup of tea. Michelle Pfeiffer stated that wearing her costume was a nightmare because the suit was so tight. So tight, in fact, that she nearly passed out. Jesus Christ. Oh, quick side note, the scene where she eats the bird, yeah, that was an actual bird. Oh, okay, I'm scared now. Instead of being the robber with a pointing nose and an umbrella in the comics, Tim Burton decided to turn this villain into a deformed outsider who was thrown over a bridge by his parents, and hey, it's Pee Wee Herman! He was raised in the sewers by penguins, and 33 years later, he's now the one taking care of the penguins, alongside his circus crew. The penguin's motivation in this film is that he wants to be a part of society. So he sends one of his circus henchmen to kidnap a baby and bring it to the penguin, making it look like that penguin saved the baby. He later wins the respect of Max Schreck and ends up running for mayor, which sadly doesn't go according to plan because Batman actually reveals the secrets that Penguin was the one causing the murders instead of Batman. After losing the respect of Gotham and Max Schreck, he later goes back to his old plans of kidnapping and drowning the children of Gotham. The inspiration for this character is Dr. Caligari from the 1920 silent horror film The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. To be honest, they do have a striking resemblance in the character design. Out of the main characters I have talked about, Max Schreck was one of the most hardest characters to analyze. Even though Penguin and Catwoman are opposites of Bruce, not only is Max Schreck an opposite, but he also joins the theme of duality. In the outside, he is a well-respected businessman, but on the inside, he's pretty much a soulless and arrogant liar who will do anything in his power to keep his position as a well-respected businessman. The character was actually named after the actor Max Schreck, who played the infamous character Nosferatu. Let me tell you, that movie is very, very creepy, I'm not gonna lie. I watched the Roger Ebert, yes, that Roger Ebert, thoughts on Batman Returns, and personally I kinda disagree with him when he says this.
Characters, we get the backstory, and then they don't go anywhere. There was no engine pulling this train. There was no story to really get us from the beginning of this movie to the end.
And I especially disagree with Siskel when he says,
there's no need for Max Schreck, Christopher Walken, in this picture at all.
if Schreck wasn't needed, then there would be no motive for Catwoman. Matter of fact, she wouldn't even be in the movie. If Max Schreck was removed from the movie, then we would have no Catwoman scene, we wouldn't really have the scene with her snooping around the office. It would just make her pointless, in my opinion. I'm not joking when I say this, but this is one of my favorite climax scenes in any movie. Everything in this scene has everything I want in these kinds of movies. Heart-wrenching scenes, Danny Elfman's score, which we will get to, and of course, fantastic acting from these characters. Now let's get over the sad scene, shall we? The saddest scene comes when the Penguin dies. The reason why this is so emotional is so because this character just wanted to be accepted in the real world. Plus, 6 penguins come out weeping and give him a funeral. I'm not crying, you're crying! Now, let's talk about what happens before the Penguin's death. Bruce is trying to reconcile with Selina after attacking Max Schreck. He tries to tell her that he understands the kind of person she is. The same as Bruce, split right down the center. He eventually removes the mask, showing us that Batman's humanity has returned. To this day, I am kicking myself in the ass for not mentioning the brilliant score by Danny Elfman in my last video. If you've watched the films Danny Elfman composed, you know it's going to be great. Of course, which leads me into the score. The score from Batman '89 is really great, and to this day has one of the most memorable themes for the character of Batman. But its sequel, oh, I just love it so much, I wish I can cry over it. I love the cemetery theme, as well as Birth of a Penguin Part 2, Batman vs. the Circus, and the finale. I'm gonna have to pick with both because they're so fucking great. The way Danny Elfman did the score is just so incredible, and I would highly, highly recommend giving them a listen to.
Yeah, Gamebox, that's fantastic, but do you have any problems with the film?
Honestly, yes I do. The painfully obvious problem I have is the eye makeup that randomly disappears. I know this is very nitpicky, but I just can't let it slide. I am still confused about the whole 9 lives thing. Like, I get what Burton was going for, but I can't for the life of me find out if she actually had 9 lives. People say she did, but what makes it more confusing is when she gets shot by Max Schreck. Some people say that's a life down, but if that's the case, then how the hell is she still standing? I mean, you can't die while standing. Some people even say that Tim Burton dropped the whole Batman pushed the princess, even though it was resolved in the scene where Bruce exposes the Penguin at the press conference. Yeah, it gets a bit confusing at times, but I can take it. The Batsuit in this film is perfect, and personally one of my favorites. The suit from the last film was pretty good, but come on, this takes the cake. It's more cleaner, it's more smoother, and Keaton can slightly move his neck in the suit. Thank God it's not as stiff as it was in the last film. Now, in my Batman 89 review, I talked about how I wasn't a big fan of the re-release, giving the lighting a more blue tint, but in the case for Batman Returns, I think it works. I also talked about having a small problem about Batman not being in the movie as much, but I recently found out that Mr. Mom himself limited his scenes to make the character more mysterious, which is kinda clever, in my opinion. In conclusion, Batman Returns is a one-of-a-kind movie, and if you haven't seen this film, then why are you even here? Like, go watch it, now! And the fact that this was targeted for a younger audience kinda depresses me, because it doesn't really give off a family-friendly feel. I know this was back in the 90s, but yeah, I kinda blame the marketing team, because I think this film should have been aimed towards people at the age of 15. Overall, this movie gets a 5 out of 5 stars for me. Thank you all so much for visiting, and I hope you enjoyed your stay. Well, I wonder if Batman 3 can live up to my expectations. Oh boy.